All right, everybody. I think we'll go ahead and kick it off. We'll start. We're going to keep the session relatively short today, 30 minutes. So first of all, my name is Shannon Boroff. I'm the Director of Product with Code3 and Echo. And I want to thank everybody for taking the time to join us for the Code3 Matrix Pro Tips session today. In addition to myself, we've got Brandon Schulteis, who's the Product Manager for light bars and other portfolios on the Code3 and Echo business. Kyle Stacey, who is the Director of Engineering, and then we have Kenny Fears, who is our Technical Services Manager. Really excited to have everybody here. We're going to be launching Matrix here this week and wanted to spend 30 minutes to share the pro tips, which are basically our lessons learned from the past 3 months. So we've had field testing installations out for the last 3 months, and there's some things in addition to our normal training collateral that we wanted to bring to this group of key partners and installers and customers to help with successful installations over the next couple of weeks. Now, our Code3 district sales managers have had multiple training sessions with Matrix, and they're ready to train and help, especially with your local needs. So this isn't necessarily a beginner or a first-time training session. This is more of a pro tip session, and your DM can help you beyond that. And then also, in addition, our technical services team is always available to solve tough situations and problems. And we've got a few slides on our tech services team, and then Kenny represented too. So today, we've got a brief overview of Matrix, followed by the pro tips on each product, lessons learned over the past couple of months. I sent out a note in the chat window that you may see. If you've got questions during the session, because it's a webinar and we're going to have lots of people on, we're not going to have an open Q&A session on this call, but what we are asking for is to go ahead and submit those questions via the email address, and we'll have that at the bottom of each slide to help you remember. It's Matrix Pro Tips, all one word, at esg.global. And what we'll do as a team is we'll pull those questions together today, we'll answer them, and then we'll send the answers to those questions out tomorrow by end of day. And I'm hoping that this will be a webinar format that will continue and we'll bring forward into the user community of Matrix. So I'm excited to be launching the industry's first click, drag, drop, and customizable solution. And so let's get started. I'll pass it over to Brandon now, and we'll start through the overview.
All right, thanks, Shannon, and hello, everyone. Again, I'm Brandon Schulteis, product manager here at Code3, and cover a lot of the products that we'll be reviewing today. Just jumping into the Matrix hierarchy here, you can see a lot of the products grayed out were launched last year, and the new products that we'll be talking about today are, colored here below. The system itself, you've got your 2 central nodes, you have some optional components, and these end nodes. And these end nodes plug in via Cat5 to those central nodes. So we'll cover, again, like Shannon said, a lot of these these things we've learned the last few months with field testing these products, and hopefully these ideas and recommendations will make your lives easier as you install Code3 products. First off, to kick things off, want to just highlight that we have released a version 3.0 of the software this week. It includes a lot of the new products that we are launching. And if you have version 2.7 or an older version, we recommend that you open the software, and it will most likely prompt you once a day when you open the software to upload the latest version. If you don't get that prompt, you can see in the upper left-hand corner of the software, it will display the version number. And if you don't have 3.0, we'd recommend checking manually for system updates. You can do that by hitting the help menu, and in the drop-down, check for system upgrades. If you have any questions there, feel free to reach out to our tech support team for assistance. All right, Matrix Thin Supervisor. One of the things that we learned the past few months was is As these units were getting installed in the field, we were getting feedback that the housing unit was pointed down 5–10%. The gaskets weren't pressed firmly against the windshield, resulting in some flashback. We were also seeing some space between the headliner and the housing. And, it was, let me show some pictures here of what we were seeing. You can see that there was a gap in the headliner. And we found that the brackets were, that the housing was not being installed properly. If you push the housing, slide the housing all the way back on the bracket, these screws will also be in the backwards position. And at that point, when you tighten the screws, it will tilt the housing up facing forward, so it won't have that dip. The gap between the housing and the headliner is almost minimal, as shown below. And it also reduces the flashback we were seeing. I have a short video to show here. You can see here, again, the gap in the housing, or between the housing and the headliner. Just slide that housing back on the brackets all the way, tighten it up, and just fast forwarding a little bit here. But you get the picture. It installs correctly, and it reduces all those issues that we were hearing about. Another common question we got the last few months was which patterns, flash patterns, are we able to sync with the Thin Supervisor and other Matrix products? So we've got a list, got an example here down below of a sweep pattern that you can select in the software. And then this sweep pattern is also available on the other products. So I'm showing the light bar here. And so when you select both together, that flash pattern will sync between the two products. And I have a full list of flash patterns here in the next few slides, and we'll include this when we send out. So not going to spend too much time on these next few slides, but you can see here the Supervisor, all the flash patterns that are available on the Supervisor, and then also the corresponding products within the Matrix system. An upcoming change that we are making is in the software is we're going to create a lot more flash patterns that will sync with the light bar that will work with the Supervisor, Citadel, and Wingman. The light bar does have a lot of flash patterns today, but not all of them are sync very well with the rest of the products. But here's a list that do. A lot of these sweep patterns work really well together across all products. Another comment we got was if you have a tricolor Supervisor, or like for instance, a red, blue, white Supervisor has a tricolor, there's not a split red, blue cruise flash pattern available. Just want to let everyone know that we've been working on that, and it's going to be available in a future release. But if you do have a dual color, red, white, blue, white Supervisor, that cruise pattern does work today. Another improvement that we've made with this product versus the previous Supervisor Flex was we improved the gaskets. There's adhesive applied to both sides of the gasket. The texture on the Supervisor housing is not wrinkled, so it provides a lot better surface to adhere to. And here's just a picture, for example, between the Supervisor Flex and this new Thin Supervisor. So the gasket will adhere a lot better to this new surface. It's passed a lot of our internal testing, and we've also seen a lot of positive results from the field test units that we've sent out the last few months. So the gaskets are showing better performance of adhering. Moving on to the Matrix Thin Wingman. we've improved. We made the same improvements to the gasket on the Wingman as we did the Supervisor. The Wingman itself does have a smaller footprint, it has a lower profile, and it's about 11 inches shorter than the previous unit. So it sits in the back of the sedan a lot better in terms of being able to have a more covert look. It's not as bulky and just, you know, we feel looks a lot better in the design. Same question we were getting was what flash patterns sync between the thin Wingman and other Matrix products. Again, here's the list, but sorted based on the Wingman flash pattern, and you can see what other products have corresponding flash patterns. We got about 8 slides worth of patterns, so just skip over them, but you guys can look at these in detail after. I'm going to turn some time over to Kyle to cover the switch node at this time.
Thanks, Brandon. So what is available today on our switch node? We have a 12-volt system. So available for purchase today is what you would get, a 12-volt. Future release will support our 12, 24-volt, which will expand our vehicle platform so we can support. Using our current run rate, we're going to transfer over to this 12, 24 sometime in the July timeframe. So after July, that unit it'll be marked so that you'll know, but it'll work on 12 or 24-volt systems. Another comment or question that we got quite often over the last 3 months was, how do we install multiple switch nodes? So currently, excuse me, currently for you to install two nodes in a system, you'd actually have to program them independently, separately. So how you would do this, you would plug in the switch node A, you'd program that using our Matrix software. Then you'd unplug that device and you'd plug in the second device and program that. Once you've got both devices programmed, you'd plug them back up into the siren and they would both work as programmed. In a future release, we'll actually be able to do that all on one screen. We will take away steps 1 and 2 from this, but for right now, that's how you will have to put two switch nodes into a system. The same goes actually for light bars. So I know we're talking about switch nodes, but same way for light bars. So if you're on a fire truck application and you have 2 smaller light bars, you would program them independently and then plug them into the siren or the SIB. Another question was, can we mount the switch node in the engine compartment? So a lot of testing was done, a lot of high temperature testing and wet environment testing was done so that we can mount these in the engine bays. Of course, you're not going to want to mount it on the engine manifolds or on top of the engine block, but in the surrounding areas around the engine bay, you can mount this device. The 2 power lugs, we did have one that actually broke one of our lugs in our testing, and we found out that it was used with like a Makita drill to put it on. So what we recommend is the torque setting on your power and ground studs to set those at 20 inch-pounds. Some were asking if they had a bad wiring or if they had a bad directional light head plugged into the switch node. So on the back of or on the top of the switch node, if you can see in the very top right-hand corner, there's actually LEDs on the device. And when the output is supposed to be firing per your configuration, those LEDs will actually turn on and off. So you'll be able to see, is the switch node actually powering, or is there possibly a concern with my wiring or possibly a concern with the directional light head itself? The main plug on the switch node is an 18-wire harness. There's 16 outputs on there, and then there's 2 CAN wire connections to the Z3 and to the SIB. So that would be a yellow and blue wire, and those again can connect to either the Z3 or the SIB. So for those that use just a light bar and a switch node, you do not need a Z3 to use the switch node. Our next slide, I'm just going to show a quick example of when to use a switch node. So the idea here is actually that you would combine the switch node with our Z3 siren, and you would let the Z3 siren control all of the outputs in the back of a car or the back of a PI utility. That would handle your chase lights, your micro packs, and whatnot. The front of the car is where you'd mount the switch node. And recall that all of our directional light heads actually require 2 wires to control them. Most are dual color or tricolor. So you've got 2 for the MR6s, 2 for the M180s, and so on. So that would allow for 16 additional wire inputs on the front of the car, where you don't have to wire all of those through the firewall all the way back to the Z3 siren. So this is going to actually help reduce labor and material cost, and then it's going to give you more individual control over the directional lighting. That's it for me. Thank you all.
All right, thanks, Kyle. All right, moving on to this Matrix Citadel. Some feedback we received was the existing cable was not long enough, depending on where the Z3 was mounted in the vehicle. And so we're providing an optional 5-foot extension cable, and there's a part number there that will be available soon. And you can add as many of these extension cables together to get, you know, a longer length if needed. But it extends the cable extending from the Citadel housing on the outside to the controller box. I've also included here again some more slides filtered based on the Citadel flash patterns, and you can see what other products can sync with that, with those corresponding flash patterns. We got quite a long list, so I'll jump through it. And so that was it for Citadel. Most of the feedback we received was that it installed as designed, and so there's not a lot of pro tips there, but you know, we look forward to any feedback you do have. Here's a look at the splitter, and we're just showing a basic install diagram. This is a standard use case where you have your central node, either a Z3 or a SIB, and you have your 2 Cat5 ports on there, your primary port and your secondary port. And we recommend installing your light bar on the primary port. And I guess just to step back a second, I'm just getting ahead of myself, but you know, this splitter is it's not needed in every system. It's designed to help out in a system where you have more than 2 end nodes. So if you have a light bar, a Citadel, a Supervisor, there's 3 end nodes, you would need a splitter. If you have 4 end nodes, if you're throwing in a wingman or a second light bar, those would be good examples of where the splitter would be required. And so just back to the example here, you've got your light bar on the primary port, and on the secondary port, here we're putting, you know, connecting the Cat5, well, connecting the splitter up via the Cat5 cable, and then we've got 2 Cat5 cables going into the off the out ports, one to the Citadel and one to the Supervisor. And in this example, we're not using the other side of the splitter, but it can be used if you're adding additional end nodes. The splitter also comes with dust covers on the ports that are not being used, just to help protect it. Pretty simple there. Just want to give a quick call out to our tech support team that is available for any questions you guys might have. They are available out of St. Louis Central Time. There's their contact number and an email address, but they're also available to work with you via Zoom, GoToMeeting, Skype, Teams. There's a lot of different platforms they can use to reach out to you and work with you, video or just a good old phone call. So please utilize them if you have any questions. All right, I'll turn time back to Shannon.
Thanks, Brandon. All right, so that covers the pro tips that we had over the last 3 months, where we've gotten feedback on lessons learned from the field. If there's questions on anything that we covered or questions that we may not have covered, please send us an email to matrixprotips@esg.global. It's on the screen right now, and we'll answer that question, and we'll have those out by tomorrow, like I said. So another thing that I intended to mention is that we are recording this webinar, and we expect to have this recording available as part of our Matrix launch collateral. It may even be in the Matrix configuration software as a link so that you can refer back to it in the future. So that's a positive. And again, I want to say thanks for joining us today. We're really excited to be launching Matrix. It's a great solution in the market, and let us know how we can help you be successful with Matrix. That's what we're here for. So thanks again for joining today. We'll wrap it up and look forward to our email communication on answered questions. Thanks, Kyle. Thanks, Brandon. Thanks, Kenny. Thanks, everyone.